You sound a little like Darth Vader this morning, so
Yeah.
it's very appropriate that we're going to be in Luke.
Yeah, my mother said that we had a family Thanksgiving yesterday. My mother said to me, "You do not sound good." I actually didn't feel too bad yesterday. Yeah. I'm thankful that with the activity this week, part of it was a large part of it was I was substitute teaching in middle school history, and they were on the Salem witch trials and the First Great Awakening. So he allowed me to teach what I have on those subjects. Didn't have much chance to get reaction from the kids. Had to hurry through the material, but hopefully they'll have learned something. Because both those events are either misunderstood by most people or ignored.
It just come on, sorry.
Speaking of witch trials,
Yeah.
It'll sneak to you now.
I know.
Yes.
All right, welcome to our study in the Gospel of Luke. We're in Luke chapter 16. We had covered what is a difficult parable to understand because Jesus seems to commend a person who acted unrighteously, dishonestly in a way. And so coming up with an understanding of what he was thinking when he said that this person did a good thing. So let's read that account. It is a little bit long, but we need to refresh our memories and somewhere here. So let's read chapter 16, 1 through, let's see, what was it, verse 9, I think. Yeah, 1 through 9. Would someone like to read that for us? Got it?
He also said to the disciples, there was a rich man who had a who had a manager, and charges were brought to him that this man was wasting his possessions. And he called him and said to him, what is this that I hear about you? Turn in the account to your management, for you can no longer be manager. And the manager said to himself, what shall I do since my master is taking the management away from me? I am not strong enough to dig, and I am ashamed to beg. I have decided what to do so that when I am removed from management, people may receive me into their houses. So summoning his master's debtors, one by one, he said to the first, how much do you owe my master? He said, 100 measures of oil. And he said to him, take your bill and sit down quickly and write 50. Then he said to another, and how much do you owe? He said, 100 measures of wheat. He said to him, take your bill and write 80. The master commended the dishonest, what was that word? Commended. Yeah.
Amen.
The dishonest
You
manager.
know, it's surprising, isn't it?
Yeah, I just thought it was a weird word there. Sorry. The master commended the dishonest manager for his shrewdness, for the sons of this world, and are more shrewd in dealing with their own generation than the sons of light. And I tell you, make friends for yourselves by means of unrighteous wealth, so that when it fails, they may receive you into the eternal dwellings.
All right, so here is a dishonest man who's being commended by Jesus, but not for his dishonesty. He's being commended for his shrewdness. That is, his thinking of the best procedure for him to be welcomed as he loses his job. Now, one thing I don't think I pointed out last time is that the word unrighteousness used in association with this wealth, I don't believe that Jesus is using the term in the sense that wealth is unrighteous. or even in the context of how this man was acquiring his favorable position as being unrighteous, but simply looking at wealth as being unrighteous from a standpoint that it is not a spiritual thing. All right, so he's looking at wealth as being a temporal, menial thing, not spiritual. So it's not unrighteous meaning sinful. It's unrighteous just meaning not spiritual. I think that's the context or the way that Jesus is using it as we look at the context. All right, well, last week I said we were going to see what the late Dr. James Montgomery Boyce had to say about this parable. So I want to give you some of his points and then have you respond to what he has to say.
Yeah, sure.
James Montgomery Boyce contends that it is in his ability, that is the manager's ability to see what was coming and plan for it. That was what's being commended. And he continues with an analysis of the manager's shrewdness in 4 areas. He says, first of all, the manager saw the issues clearly. And Boyce says, so we need to recognize that we are stewards of what God has given to us. Are we wasting his possessions? All right, do you have any comments about that particular point? That the manager saw the issues clearly. And are we wasting the possessions that God has made available to us by not seeing the issues clearly? That is, seeing the issues of a world without Christ and the need for people to come to Christ.
I think more than that, those sometimes we cloud the issues that it's our possessions and not his possessions.
Yeah.
It's our church building, it's our,
Mm-hmm.
works, it's our whatever. When it actually his works, his building,
Mhm.
his people.
Yeah, I was glad to hear the testimony of my insurance man. I don't know if you know Sean Summers in New Middletown. The insurance company for whom he's worked for, I don't know, 30 years or something, was bought out by another company, and they decided to eliminate all home insurance. So he had to basically start all over again and try and find companies for all his clients, not knowing if they would stick with them or not. Are they going to go find their own? But he says after an initial reaction of worrying and what am I going to do? He said, and then I remembered, this isn't my business, it's God's business. And it's up to him. He's the one that gave it to us to begin with, and he's the one that's going to have to sustain it. And at the end of it all, I think it was 90% of his clients stayed with him, going to other companies that and even getting other companies was miraculous, because no insurance companies wanted to take on any more agents.
Mm.
But he and some others that were with the same company went to these other insurance companies and said, look, our people have a much lower rate of claims than anybody else. And so they I think like 5 companies took them on. So it's nice to hear somebody in business making that kind of a proclamation. And John's exactly right. We all have a tendency to not look at what we have as being God's, but as our own. And that's where it starts, right? Hey, any other comments? All right, the next point that Boyce makes is that the manager demonstrates his care for the future. And interestingly enough, Boyce illustrates this with the concerns raised by an insurance agent. That insurance agents are always wanting you to think about the future, or financial planners think about the future, right? That's what their business is. And so this manager showed that not only did he see what the issues were, but his care for the future. And so for us, that we care for the future, not be caught up in the immediate. Any comments there?
Again, if you're using wealth for the kingdom of God, that would be more for the laying up treasures in heaven.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I think there's something in here, like the manager was goal oriented in that, he's like, I've got to figure out what to do, otherwise I'm gonna be out on the street. And
Mhm.
I think that I've thought about in the past is having actual like spiritual goals, long term.
Mhm.
Not just like, I want to go to church on Sunday, but like, what's
Yeah.
something that you actually want to improve on?
Mm.
That can be something that's really beneficial. In anyone's life.
Yeah, that's good because our financial advisors, our insurance agents want us to have goals. I know as we went into financial planner years ago, we said, well, what do you want to have after you retire and all that? So just enough to live on, with our retirement. But he wanted us to set goals and, okay, how can we reach that? But we don't do that spiritually, do we? Setting goals spiritually. Where do I want to be a year from now spiritually? Are there people that I need to talk to about spiritual things? Yeah, that's good. Kathy, what were you gonna say?
No, nothing. No. Jeff waved at me while he was talking, and he thought I was talking to him, so it was just so funny. Sorry. He's like talking, thinking I'm going like this.
This morning, I thought of a song and I tried to download it, but it wouldn't do it. So I'm just gonna read the words to you. You've probably heard this song before, but the lyrics go well with this, I believe. It's called Thank You. I dreamed I went to heaven and you were there with me. We walked upon the streets of gold beside the crystal sea. We heard the angels singing, then someone called your name. You turned and saw this young man, and he was smiling as he came. And he said, friend, you may not know me now, but then he said, but wait, you used to teach my Sunday school when I was only 8. And every week you would say a prayer before the class would start. And one day when you said that prayer, I asked Jesus in my heart. I didn't expect to be emotional about this. Thank you for giving to the Lord. I am a life that was changed. Thank you for giving to the Lord. I am so glad you gave. Then another man stood before you and said, remember the time a missionary came to your church and his pictures made you cry? You didn't have much money, but you gave it anyway. Jesus took the gift you gave, and that's why I'm here today. And it goes to the chorus again. Thank you for giving to the Lord. One by one they came, far as the eyes could see. Each life somehow touched by your generosity. Little things that you had done, sacrifices made, unnoticed on the earth, in heaven now proclaimed. And I know that up in heaven you're not supposed to cry, but I am almost sure there were tears in your eyes. As Jesus took your hand and he stood before the Lord, he said, my child, look around you, for great is your reward. And then the chorus again, thank you for giving to the Lord. I am a life that was changed. Thank you for giving to the Lord. I am so glad you came. So that's seeing the issues clearly and caring for the future. Any comments? All right, the third point that Boyce makes is that the manager provides us with an example in that he made provision for what he knew was coming. That is, he not only saw the issues clearly and cared about the outcome, he also did something about it. And then he has some subpoints under that. In verse 9, Boyce points out that Jesus is saying to use money to make friends who will precede us to heaven, so that when the money is gone, as it certainly will be one day, the friends will remain. Dr. Thomas Constable of Dallas Theological Seminary comments, they should spend their money to make friends who would welcome them into the kingdom and heaven when the disciples died. In other words, disciples should sacrifice their money to bring others to faith in Jesus and so secure a warm reception into heaven. Jesus pictured the converts as dying before the disciples and welcoming them into heaven when the disciples arrived. Disciples should use our money to lead people to Jesus Christ. We should not consume it all on ourselves or pass it all on to our heirs or hoard it, but invest it in the Lord's work. And might this not be what Paul had in mind when he commended the Greeks of Macedonia and Achaia for contributing to the poor saints in Jerusalem, when he wrote in Romans 15:27, yes, they were pleased to do so, and they are indebted to them. For if the Gentiles have shared in their spiritual things, that is, from the Jews, they are indebted to minister to them also in material things. And he wrote to the Corinthians in the first letter, chapter 9, verse 11, if we sowed spiritual things in you, is it too much if we reap material things from you? Proverbs 19:17 says, one who is gracious to a poor man lends to the Lord, and he will repay him for his good deed. Godet points out that it is Jesus, it is God himself who become our debtors by the assistance which we grant to those who are the objects of their love. Dwight Pentecost, again of Dallas Seminary, said this, a foolish person lives only for the present and uses personal wealth only for the present. A wise person considers the future and uses personal wealth to reap benefits in the future. So we've said the same thing a number of different ways here. Do you have any comments about that particular point?
Reminds you of the Barths,
The what?
and how they used them.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, the Barth, Chuck Barth. Yeah.
Well, you know, I don't really have anything to say about this point, but I really, what's on my heart is, and I don't mean to like sidetrack, but I think your reaction to that song was more impactful for me this morning than anything you're saying right now. But you reminded me of the heart of our pastors, you know, and all the people who have poured into each of us. And I always thank veterans for their service, but you know, I thank the Lord for you, but thank you. Because I know you put a lot of hours in it. Thanks for sharing your heart that way.
Thank you. All right, his next point concerns verses 10 to 12. Let's take a look there. Well, okay, we're going to go through 10 to 12 more specifically here, but just keep in mind that it's about trust. And then verse 13, that a person cannot serve both God and money. So we know those. So let's go on to verse 10. In the application of of Jesus' parable here. So the point of the preceding parables is given in verses 10 to 13. We're in the application part. We saw use money to win people into the kingdom, and then faithfulness will be rewarded with more responsibility. Verse 10, he who is faithful in a very little thing is faithful also in much. And he who is unrighteous in a very little thing is unrighteous also in much. I'm not sure what I can add to that. I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory, isn't it? Any comments about that statement? Yeah, you've seen that operate in your own lives. either in jobs or maybe as children or your children. If someone does a good job, they get more responsibility. And if they don't, then they don't get more responsibility.
It reminds me of Clara, like she's not really, I wouldn't describe her as a liar by nature, like she like is a habitual liar, but she'll lie to like hide getting in trouble to me.
Mhm.
And I just come down so hard on the littlest lie with her because it's the little things, if you could be honest
Mhm.
about the little things, I just feel like no lies ever okay.
Yeah,
So if she could be honest with me, that's what that reminded me of. Yeah.
yeah, I know, as teachers, that's something that we have dealt with, and probably Beth more than me. Maybe that she had the same kids all day, but you could allow for someone making a mistake or even doing something wrong, but when they lied about it, that was really the worst. You want to comment on that?
I just used to tell them disobeying is wrong. And I can forgive you for disobeying, but lying makes it so much worse because then I can't trust.
Right.
Yeah.
And they got more in trouble for lying than they did the actual deed.
Any other comments?
I don't wanna go too far into a rabbit hole, but you're usually good about the root of things. I noticed your version. It's just the ESV makes this very weird, this break, this line. It says one who is faithful in a very little. And of one who is dishonest in a very little. What is that supposed to actually, because yours had the little thing.
A little thing. I think the NASB translators added thing just to make it flow better. Yeah, to make it so, because if you said in a very little, you're hanging on a little what?
Yeah.
And they just want to make, they were just clarifying that it's talking about something, a very little something. Yeah, the adjective needed a noun. All right, any other comments?
Well, no, I'm thinking in terms of business. And that's simply, Tim. My nose is all stuffed up, so I'm hearing myself talk. So it doesn't- nothing is right there. But if I have an employee and I'm trying to train that employee just to the next level, I'm not gonna give him the biggest account I have.
Right.
I'm gonna give him a smaller account, and see how he services that.
Mhm.
If he services that account, I'm gonna give him a larger account, and it's gonna go up that way. Okay, this is what Christ is saying to us, can't be trustworthy. No matter what it is, even if it's unrighteousness, then you can't be entrusted with something greater. I think he
Mhm.
does that switch to the spiritual, and the same goes for the spiritual side. And I think maybe that's the way I'm dealing with it. It's gonna be a bad difference.
Which makes me think about how the church in general in America does ministry, professional ministry. It's like if you want to be a missionary, you go to school, get a degree, and then we send you overseas. And if you want to be a pastor, you go to Bible college or seminary, and then you go out and be a pastor. There's no training ground, in a sense, of actually working in a church doing that kind of ministry. And it seems to me the New Testament teaches that we ought to be bringing up people, training them to do the work of the ministry. And it's when you see somebody doing it well that you then bump them up. I think our whole system of how we get pastors in churches and how we send out missionaries, in great part is missing that.
Well, I think an excellent example of that, what pastors excellent at doing is Matt Ellie. Matt came out of seminary, he wanted the job, okay, he's over at Old York, this huge church. They're not gonna put him in a senior pastor, are they?
Yeah,
That wouldn't be a shrewd or wise thing to do.
right.
But they did arrange for him to come and be under the pastor, and the
Mhm.
time we're investing in him will prayerfully someday, when he has a church, will pay off.
Yeah. Yeah.
For the Lord, that is, not for him.
All right, verse 11, therefore, based on all that we've seen before, if you have not been faithful in the use of unrighteous wealth, who will entrust the true riches to you? What are the true riches?
Be the treasure in heaven and.
Yeah, spiritual things, right? So if you don't handle money, materialistic things properly, then why would we give you charge over spiritual things? Verse 12, and if you have not been faithful in the use of that which is another's, who will give you that which is your own? So, as several people have commented, the earthly wealth we have is from God. It's God's. It's a loan. So Jesus' point here is that if one is faithful in his use of money, then he can be trusted with greater things. So do you want to do great things for God? Handle your material possessions wisely. Then God will give you spiritual possessions to govern. Any comments there?
Would you make an embezzler the treasurer of your church?
Yeah.
Same concept. You can't be entrusted with money, how can you entrust with men's souls?
Yeah. And the New Testament points out that not only being entrusted with money, but your family. You know, one of the qualifications for an elder is that their family is under control. What's that, Frank?
I said, well. Yeah, I'm done. No.
Frank's fired.
Thankfully, it doesn't say that his wife is under control. That would never happen.
Now we can disqualify everybody. That's it.
All right, Jesus' third point comes from wait a minute, I'm off here. From the following words in verse 13, where he talks about the love for money, which we're told in 1 Timothy 6:10, the love of money is a root of all kinds of evil. Some people eager for money have wandered from the faith and pierced themselves with many griefs. Conversely, loving God will cause one not to make money their primary concern in life. If your life is focused on material things, then God is not your God. So we see that in verse 13, where no two masters cannot be served. So verse 13 says, no servant can serve two masters. Now, interesting, the word for servant here is not the normal word for servant. Anybody know what the normal Greek word for servant is? Doulos is the word for slave. And that's not used here either. That's why, a lot of the translations don't make a distinction between these words. And I think it's to the detriment of understanding specifically what's being said. So Paul says he is a slave of Christ. James, at the beginning of his letter, says he's a slave of Jesus Christ. And that ought to be translated that way. The word servant normally is the word diakonos, which is from what we get deacon. And thankfully, our church has, under Brian's leadership, brought it into being a constitution which designates deacons of the church as being those who are servants of the church. They serve in different areas, meeting the physical needs generally of different parts of the church. But that's not the word he uses here either. It would have been better. I mean, what does your translation say? It says servant? Yeah. They should have translated it maybe as a master, because the word is used here has the first part, at least, of the word earlier for manager, oikos, which is the house. So it's the household manager. No household manager can serve two masters. So it's in the context of everything that he's been saying. So again, it comes back to our stewardship of what God has given to us. Not just that we're a servant of Christ or a slave of Christ, but that we are the manager of the things he has given to us. That's the emphasis that he's trying to get across here. So no household manager can serve two masters. Why not? For he either will hate the one and love the other, or else he will be devoted to one and despise the other. You can't have two masters. And then he follows that up with the statement in which he defines the two masters. You cannot serve God and wealth. The word there is mammon, which the King James Version just transliterated it, didn't translate it. And that's a common Aramaic word for riches. You cannot serve God and wealth or riches. Does ESV have wealth there or what?
Money.
Money. So what's your response to that? Your reaction to this statement? You can't serve two masters. You can't serve God and money.
I just want to say that I think what you explained in that verse actually helps me with that, treating more as like no steward, because with that understanding, you know, 'cause a servant or slave, you know, they could potentially have two masters, and not that they would.
Hmm.
You know, I just, when it's treated more as a steward, where you're supposed to be managing responsibilities for a person, like,
Mhm.
there'll always be conflict. You're managing it for two different people, even if you're talking not spiritual things. No one hires someone as a manager who has a conflict of interest with, they're already managing something else, you know, that is
Mhm.
not possible when I work out.
Well, and if you're in terms of today, our financial advisor, if he is out only to make money for himself and not looking out for your interests, you may end up losing money. He can't. His focus has to be on doing what's best for his clients, and then in the end, he'll make money from that. But that has to be the focus, and so our focus needs to be that we're serving God, and that's our goal in life, is to serve God, not to get money. I've talked to a number of high school students over the years, and it seemed like for a while there, when I talked to them about what they plan to do for an occupation in life, and they would tell me, and I would say, why do you want to go into that occupation? And for a while, it just seemed like a lot of them were saying, I can make more money that way. I said, wrong answer. Wrong answer. You ought to be looking at what occupation can I go into in which I can serve the Lord best, in which you can use my gifts the best. That ought to be your focus, not how much money you can make.
That's a tough balance in this world to like, like I have a job where I would say, I'm there for my daughter. I could go somewhere else and make money. And I am serving the Lord because I'm caring about her, you know? But then it's very stressful. I mean, I praise the Lord for my church family, like I made it through a hard time only because of, it's just it's hard to be poor. And where's that fine line between like serving, like you have to work to make money, you gotta live. I don't eat worms out of the earth,
No matter what that saying is, the early bird catches the worm.
right?
You
I don't eat worms.
don't have to get up early because you're not concerned with worms.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's hard to determine what serving money really looks like.
Mm.
You can make money without serving money. Think of people like Chick-fil-A guys made a lot of money, but his goal, I think, is serving the Lord. So you can make money, you can have money without it controlling you.
In fact, that comes through even in the training. I think I heard, we were with friends a week ago who their son-in-law owns a Chick-fil-A franchise, and our friend is working for him. And so she's very familiar with the training process. And I think I heard her say something like that if you want to be an owner of a Chick-fil-A franchise, you have to be approved. And some of the questioning is concerning your attitude of servanthood and I don't know, do you remember any of the details of that? But basically they want to make sure that they have quality people running these things. And that comes from a guy at the top who is serving the Lord and not just trying to make money. Yeah, any other comments?
Definitely make I guess what, 1/7 more money, either if they were only concerned about money. You know,
And there's a
Chick-fil-A.
reason why the servers or the people that work at Chick-fil-A don't say, oh, no problem, you know, when you thank them for something. They say what? My pleasure. And that comes through. I don't know about you, but I think that comes through in the people that are there. By saying that even, it makes them think about how they are serving people, not just earning a paycheck. I suppose there are exceptions, but most of the time it seems like that comes through. And you wonder sometimes when you're in another establishment and you thank them and they say, my pleasure. Did you used to work at Chick-fil-A?
Yeah.
They hijacked it.
All right, any other comments on serving God and wealth? Yeah.
If you have a priority of making money and serving the Lord. I mean, serving the Lord has to come first.
Any other comments? Yeah, John.
Though I don't know whether this is gonna connect here a little, but I've always told the younger people that I talk to that are wanting to find something to make a living at. Find what it is that you have a passion for
Mhm.
and that you love to do. The money will come later, don't worry about that.
Yeah.
And I think at least our two kids have done that. But they have jobs that they are with people that they can witness to every day, which they do.
Hmm.
So that's all part of that, you know.
Yeah.
But they have a job that they like, that they love to do. And they are in a position where they can speak of God daily.
Mhm. Yeah.
It's just change, they put in the contract now, but they can't talk about any religion or faith or anything now at work. They just put that in there. And it wasn't there all these years she's been there. Now they put that in there, but she said, that's only on company time. When they're walking out,
Yeah.
go to lunch or whatever. So, but they did put that in there, isn't that a shame?
Yeah.
I think our son Mark was a good example that he had different jobs, which he made okay money and he hated. Until he got his job, the rescue mission, which he's making a little less money, but now he loves it.
Yeah.
I think gives a good example. He found something that not only does he love, but he can be in ministry. And it doesn't have to be in Christian ministry, but for him, those other jobs were nowhere jobs.
Mhm.
And he didn't like them. He hated it.
Yeah.
One thing I say to Pastor Matthew often is, we have an audience of one,
Mhm.
so. We have all these people he's serving and all the different people I'm serving and all the things we're doing, and but we really only have an audience of one. The focus is really just Christ and the building, but
All right, I'm mulling over in my head a decision because I'm not feeling any better of maybe canceling tonight. I think I just need to go home. So hopefully this has all made some sense. That the Lord is in charge of what happens here and that we've gained something from look at these verses together. Next week, we're going to see, because remember who's there listening all this time? the Pharisees, and see how they respond to this message. Hopefully, and I know that your response has been, yeah, that's right. I need to make sure God's a priority and not money. But you wonder if in a larger group somewhere, if everybody would be on board with that. And we'll see the Pharisees are not going to be on board. So we'll see that next time.
And.
That was so funny. I'm so sorry. Jeff was waving at me. You're-
Jeff does it all the time. So.
It's like,
just
it was
blame
like
Jeff for anything.
intentional, like he set us up for failure there.
Right.
It was so funny. It's good to see you
Yeah,
this morning.
Claire's doing well.
She
Oh,
is.
no, good.
Yeah, she's actually
Thanks.
doing really well right now.